If you don't like your work, you're not going to like anything else in your life. You can't be a fake personality online and then be a genuine physical therapist.
I got where I am because of connections and contacts. It's not you go out and you put your name up on a wall and everybody's going to come to you. Like it's that integrity.
It's not a sale. You just have to be a good communicator and a good educator. Because you're not seeing the other like positive side of it, you just keep seeing negative after negative after negative. And it's like, dude, no wonder why you're burned out.
People wanting to go into cash business, I don't know if they have. They're like, hey, I'm tired of the box clinic. I want to go open a clinic. I'm like, no, it takes some shit. It takes hard freaking work.
All you have to do is show that your business is not dependent on you being within the walls.
All right, welcome everybody to the Athletic Dry Needling Podcast. My name is Dr. Scott Dixon. This is a podcast where we try to focus on game changers in the rehab and performance community. We've been interviewing business owners, clinicians, professional athletes, really those who have been leaders in industry and are succeeding in their field. Today, I'm very lucky to have Dr. Krupa, a good friend and an incredible clinician. It's been amazing to follow you in your journey. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Kyle was one of my students. It was amazing to
Yep.
watch you learn tri needling. But what I really like to do in this podcast is kind of see everybody's journey to where they are now. Like it's like I said, it's been amazing to me to watch. You were already successful when I met you, but it feels like you've even gone further. So kind of tell me a little bit about your journey from PT school to Crew Lab, which you have now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on this because
Oh, of
I think
course.
the whole project that you're doing is really, really cool. And I saw some of the other interviews that you did and that you've released already. And some people aren't great interviewers, but you seem to
Yeah.
do a really good job with it. So
Oh, stop.
I don't know, man, you're picking up on it pretty quick. So I don't think I could do it what you do. I'd probably just be over talking to everybody all the time. So,
Yeah.
but
It's
no,
the
thank you
harder
for having me on.
ones. You're a talker, and that's easy. The harder ones. I don't know if you saw my good buddy. He was a nine-year NFL. I'm like, I had to,
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. You have to facilitate all that.
yeah,
So that's
no,
not
you
happening.
run with it. I'll listen.
Yeah.
So go
Oh, for
ahead.
sure. But yeah. So originally from Pennsylvania, grew up
Right.
there, northeastern Pennsylvania, Cold
Okay.
Town, and yeah, I came down to PT school over at University of Miami,
Right.
class of 2014, and after like going back and forth, seeing what's going on in Miami and all the high rises going up and everything being built up and all that, and then going back to Philly and it's like it's kind of the same thing over and
Right. Right.
over. I just saw way more opportunity down here. Plus networking during that time and working throughout my time in PT school, and really just putting in a grind with a gym that really took me under their wing, and they wanted my expertise that I was learning in PT school at the time,
Yeah.
and it was great because I'd learn it in school and then I'd go in and apply it, and I was doing like all the 5 6 a.m. classes before school, and then
Wow.
going and doing like the 7 8 o'clock classes at night is just like all the bitch classes that nobody wanted. So
Right.
but yeah, so went and did all those, learned a ton. And I still use all those principles today. I learned all about like conjugate method and weightlifting and speed development, performance training, things like that, and which really helped me integrate the performance training aspect into the way that I treat today. But yeah, after I finished PT school, I took my first job with a performance based type of physical therapy company that kind of hit a fork in the road at the time where he had to make a decision whether he was going to start to do something that was going to be more sustainable, because as you know, like training athletes and treating athletes doesn't necessarily keep the lights on.
Right.
So with all that said, as much as we were trying to market towards the athletes, it was like we had to kind of go that direction. And I would say, one of the best experiences that I had in that job, I didn't really have much clinical mentorship. I had some like business acumen mentorship, I'll
Right.
say,
Yeah.
a little bit here and there. Nothing that was too formal. It was just like more, learning the ins and outs of reportings and things like that. But with that said, I also needed a lot of help on the clinical side, who's just
Right.
myself as like volume was increasing, and I got a bunch of students dumped on me at that time, which
Yeah.
is tough as a new grad and
Right.
not having any clinical mentorship. So like right off the rip, I was already like maybe a month in, and I had probably 4 or 5 students under my belt. I think I had five. So I
Oh
had
wow.
three ex-phys students. One of those students, by the way, is actually my office manager now.
Oh
So like,
nice. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So she kind of followed me through the journey of like the
Yeah.
whole, career and development of Crew Lab. But yeah, so that was pretty interesting having three undergrads and then two PT students. And so it's just like this constant bombardment from patients of like wanting to get better, but also
Right.
bombardment from my, quote unquote staff that wanted to be
Yeah.
educated, wanted
Right.
to know, what I was doing with these patients, why I was doing it, clinical reasoning behind it. How we were seeing a ton of direct access. So, I
Right.
was doing like all diagnostic stuff like right there in
Oh
the clinic.
wow.
And then also trying to like learn and navigate around. There was a chiro in the building, and there was a
Okay.
strength coach in the building, and then there was also an
Who was that
acupuncturist
first
and a massage
business?
therapist.
Can you say?
I'd rather not, just
Okay.
because,
I think I
you know.
know, but I get you. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure I know
you
who it
do.
is. Okay. All right.
You
Cool.
do,
We're good.
yeah.
All right.
But I mean, if people research hard enough, they'll find it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
regardless,
Yeah.
the main thing that I learned there was like how to navigate around this multidisciplinary
Right.
team, really respecting everybody's boundaries, creating those boundaries,
Yep.
and then also educating and directing my staff. And I just really couldn't afford to be wrong a lot
Yeah.
because I didn't want
Well,
to
it's
look
funny
I didn't
because
want to
I've
look bad.
told people on the podcast, like I learned more in my first year than I did in all of PT
Mhm.
school. So you're learning,
Yeah,
like trying to
yeah.
be you, and then you're teaching while you're
Yeah.
learning, basically. That's incredible.
Well, I mean, it was literally go treat, do your
Yeah.
notes, and then go home. And it was like I had to read research when I got
Yeah.
home because I was so afraid to look wrong.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't want to be
So
the
they'd
guy that
call
were
you
like,
out.
hey, oh, they call it. I mean, you know how students are. They're gonna call you out on day one and see
Yeah.
how on top of it you are. And if you're not on top of it, you're gonna lose their trust and their
Yeah.
respect. And good luck being a good CI for them. So,
Right.
but yeah, that was and plus I just wanted to be the best in my craft. Like
Right.
I don't care if I'm a janitor. I'm gonna be the best freaking janitor that's out there.
Right.
So like that's kind of the demeanor that you have to approach it. But the interesting part was at the time, so that was back in 2014 and
Okay.
2015, and my first dry needling course was actually taken up in New Jersey because
Okay.
it was not legal here in Florida yet,
Right. Yeah.
and so I took a level one and level two up there with a company that doesn't even exist anymore. They merged or sold to another company, but anyway. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I didn't really get to use it here in Florida outside of like, myself and a couple
Right.
friends here and there. And then, I started incorporating it once it was legalized here in Florida. And
Right.
I did my course with you.
Yeah.
And well, just going back to what it was after I had finished my first job, and then started another company and grew
How
that
long
into
were
three
you at that first
locations.
job?
That was a year and a half. Year and a
Okay.
half.
All right.
Yeah,
So
so
that
so
went
it
from
was.
there to entrepreneurship.
Yeah. From
Okay.
there, it was funny because like I started taking some side clients, I was like I got to be careful with like not violating any kind of
Right.
non-competes or anything like
Right.
that. But it was funny, man. I took a per diem job at University of Miami Hospital doing like mostly outpatient, but I had some inpatient days, and I was like,
Okay.
this is wild. But I was building a bankroll while
Yeah.
I was literally treating patients in my apartment building in my
Oh
house.
wow.
So I
Okay.
started there. Like literally, my wife would be cooking next to us, like while I have a table like right there in an apartment. And like, you're just watching her cook while we're getting treatment or
Yeah.
whatever, and then go down to our gym and then do all of our exercise down there, come back and do the next one. And then like as that grew, I was like, all right, well, I mean, now I need a location. This is time.
Right.
So I did that for a good probably 6 months before I actually opened my first location
Okay.
with my first company, athletics, and then
Yeah.
and then yeah, that was awesome. We rode that we rode that train for 8 years, and it was
Right.
awesome. Great experience. Made a lot of like great connections, and
Right.
developed it into three locations. Did the math on it. I looked up some old reports. We
Yeah.
treated 5,000 patients over three
Wow.
locations
Oh
in
wow.
8 years.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. But, a
Yeah.
client list of 5,000 patients. So that was a lot of fun. And then, COVID
So
hit
I
and
want to go
that
back
all
to
kind
that
of thing.
because that's a
Yeah.
big point for our people that we kind of are targeting is that leap. I talked to the
Hmm.
guy Michael Derry a couple days ago, and
Yeah.
one of the methods, unfortunately what I did because I'm a single dad, I tapered. I worked in another clinic. I opened mine 1 day a week, 2 days a week. But there's something called the
Yeah.
Cortez method, who's an old
Mhm.
Spanish conquistador, and he would burn his ships before they attacked because he said we're either going to win or we're going to die.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
you basically went all in. You weren't doing two
Yeah.
jobs. When you opened, you said, "I'm it. We're doing this or we're
Yeah.
going to fail."
Yeah, well, and it's actually really interesting that you just brought that up because I was listening to another podcast recently where they were just talking about that term of like
Yeah,
burn the boats or burn the
yeah,
ships, however you want to phrase it. But it is the ultimate demonstration of commitment.
yeah,
It's like we're doing this or we're not coming home.
yeah.
And actually, I'm not sailing out unless it's on your ships. So to take it one step further,
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh, I like that.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so
we're
it
going to
really
win
is
and
an
we're going to
all.
take your ships with us.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
like it.
I think to cross that barrier,
Yeah,
it has to be a calculated risk
yeah.
is the best way that I describe it to a lot of like recent grads or just anybody that's out
Right.
for a number of years that wants to go into entrepreneurship
Now you
is that it's like
mentioned you mentioned you got some business. How
yeah.
was the dose of reality when you started your own? All the stuff, the oh my God, we're not business owners. That's like that book E Myth Revisited. People start a business like,
Yeah,
wait, I'm not a manager. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a marketer. I'm not a, how
and
much
you're
of a
all
slap
that.
in the, yeah, how much was that like, shit, we're not ready?
Yeah. I will say this. By the time I took on the overhead, I was
Okay.
bursting at the seams.
Oh, no.
That was the
Okay.
good news. Like
Oh,
it
wow.
wasn't like I had a location and I was like,
Right.
oh my God, how do I fill this
Yeah.
location?
Okay.
I mean, I will say it once, I took on staff and partner and
Yeah.
that kind of thing, like then it was a lot of
Right.
that. But
Right.
me personally, like I was already seeing 8, 9 people a day by
Wow.
myself,
At your
in my
apartment.
apartment. Yeah, in my building. Like literally
Okay.
my building started, the building was complaining about all the people checking
Oh,
in at
wow.
the front desk because
Yeah.
because you're not allowed to run a business out of your out of your
You just
primary
got a lot of
residence here.
friends. They figured you either
That's
running a business, or you were a drug dealer. Something was going on,
right.
man.
Yeah,
People are
something
coming
not
in,
good.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so they're like, this is a little weary, but
Yeah.
they saw that I was using the gym and everything else,
Uh,
but so it was all good. But they definitely, yeah, like I said, it was calculated risk in the
right.
sense that I had built up as much as I possibly could and
Mm,
grew into it. And
right.
then once I signed a lease, that's where, your mentality of like burn the boats. I was like, I
Yeah.
signed that thing and I was like, dude,
Yeah.
I will sleep on the floor before I let this thing fail. I don't
Oh, that's
care.
awesome.
Like
Yeah.
I mean, you have to. It
Right.
has to be that mentality because and I always tell people like, there's a lot of questions about this like work-life balance and all that
Right.
stuff. And I'm like, dude, if you don't like your work, you're not going to like anything else in your life. And people aren't
Right.
going to like you, to be honest with you, because
Yeah.
there's only, I don't even know how you can mask that. I don't know how you can mask hating your work and then
Right.
like go home and be happy and be able to serve your kids and be able to, anybody else for that matter.
Now,
So
were you guys cash or you insurance from the beginning, or how did that initial
uh,
business go?
Yeah, we went hybrid right off the
Okay.
rip.
Okay.
So we started doing out of network billing,
Okay.
and that was, that everything has its learning curve.
Yeah.
And I would say there's ways that I would have done it differently at
Right.
that time, and now things have changed like really aggressively as like the principles of Obamacare have
Right.
progressed.
Okay.
Everybody like wants to know why, like, oh, my deductible went up, or
Yeah.
why am I paying a higher premium and a higher deductible? And
Right.
like these are all things that these are all products of a policy that was installed
Right.
15 years ago,
Right. Right. Right.
So
And what is it? So when you and your partner left, when was that? When did you start your current, the crew lab?
yeah, so Crew Lab started 2023,
Okay.
July of 2023, and
Okay.
so it's
Now, did you
been.
use one of the other buildings or did you get a new one?
Yeah, I kept two of the locations.
Okay.
So we had three, so
Yep.
I kept two. and then yeah, and then just rebranded them under the new brand, and
Okay.
it kind of went a little bit different direction in terms of the
Okay.
model.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me the model you're doing
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. So the way that we're currently structured, we're inside of a gym.
Right. Is that the
So
one I
the
taught
idea,
at?
it is. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So we're inside of two different gyms with both locations, but the ultimate goal is actually to have our own performance training center, and then have the medical built out around it.
Okay.
So we already have, like, we're lined up with MRI imaging, we're lined up with X-ray, like all the imaging centers.
Right.
We lined up with one of those. We aligned with a functional medicine doctor, another one that does, like, the peptides and
Right.
hormone replacement therapies and things like that. And then we also have non-invasive orthopedics, and then pain
Okay.
management.
Oh
So
wow.
all of that under one roof.
Yeah.
But you have to make sure that it keeps the vibe as a gym, because the
Yeah.
ultimate reason why people are there is to be there for the gym. That's why they're coming 5 days a week. But then
Right.
it's like when they need all the other ancillary services, it's all right there
Okay.
at their fingertips.
Now, are you still hybrid model or are you cash?
Yeah, so right now I'm still doing the hybrid model. So I
Okay.
build out a network, and
Okay.
then if the person's insurance plan doesn't allow it, then I also have like a self-pay model as well,
Okay.
or self-pay rates as well. So
Okay.
it's been an interesting, since the beginning of 2024, there was a lot of changes in managed care
Right.
and how
Yeah.
they treat out-of-network providers.
Right.
And we've been going through and navigating like all these new changes that they didn't even tell us about, because they don't have to tell us because we're out of network. So you don't learn about these policy changes
Yeah.
until you submit a bill to them.
Right.
But it's unfortunate to see how that they're how they're treating providers,
Right.
and they're essentially saying, like, hey, listen, you're the enemy. If anybody has any issues with this, like, let it be the patient will take it up with us.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here going, well, listen, we're physical therapists, like, we have
Yeah.
to maintain a relationship with our
Right.
patients, right?
Yeah.
So you're telling me to submit this bill to the patient and then have the patient call you because they're going to complain about the bill. I go, but
Right.
who do you think that they're going to call when I submit a
Yeah.
bill to them? They're going to
Right.
call me, or are they going to call you? Of
Right.
course, so they're going to call me first. The bill's coming from me. So I think that's where there's this disconnect, where they're saying, they're playing this game. Dude, I really don't want to go on a rant on all this
No,
stuff
no,
because
it's
I could,
you're probably
but
preaching to the choir in this audience. Believe
yeah,
me.
but it is really a shame that they're saying, essentially, listen, you're not contracting with us, so we're going to make this as difficult as we can for you, so that you have to now go after the patient, ruin that relationship with the patient,
Yeah.
and therefore not bill us anymore.
But we're seeing from the people I've interviewed, we're seeing it going downhill even in network. I mean,
Oh
there's
yeah,
people I've
it's
heard that, hey, I just had a total knee, and they go, you get 4 visits, and then you got to call back and get four. I'm like, who can
yeah,
fix a total knee
yeah.
or an ACL? You get four. What is an
Well,
ACL
I
like?
mean,
3 to 6 months?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, this the saddest part about it is, like, this drove me to, like, a couple months back, once I was
Yeah.
seeing all these numbers coming in. I'm like, all right, well, let me see what it looks like to go in network again.
Yeah.
You just kind
Oh,
of,
okay.
what it wasn't 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, listen, last time I investigated was 10 years ago. Let's take a
Yeah.
look at it now and see
Okay.
if things changed, right? Because out of network
Right.
changed. So I go back and I look, and so the funny part was, Aetna tried to negotiate for $50 a visit. And then that what was even worse was Cigna tried to negotiate for $32 a visit.
Jeez.
So I just laughed hysterically, obviously. No wiggle room at all
Yeah.
for reimbursement, or for
Right.
negotiation on reimbursement.
Wow.
And then, they're like, take it or leave it, because there's other providers that are taking it,
And have
and
you
and what
never
they
thought
mean by
about
that
going all
is,
cash?
at this point, I am considering
Yeah.
it, just because the brand and the name, like, carries
Yeah.
pretty far at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So had I been a new grad, I don't know if I really advise that for new grads or anybody that's, like, out and hasn't really networked and built their
Yeah.
credibility for too
Right.
long, because I mean, listen, you got to start somewhere, right? When it comes to the self-pay model, but you really have to build a genuine, because it's very easy to build fake credibility,
Yeah.
especially online and
Right.
social media these days. You just hire a photographer and pay
Yeah.
for it,
Right.
right? But a real resume should speak for itself. And if you're involved in your local community, which obviously you need to be because that's where you're going to get your patients from, you can't be a fake personality online and then be a genuine physical therapist. You know what I mean? Like in your local community, people are going to see right through that. So
I mean,
because at
it's
some point you have to
without.
put your hands on them.
It's
So
definitely reputation. I remember I was telling a patient today, I've been lucky enough, as you know, in my profession I've traveled
Mhm.
to 46 states. I met a lot of people. And I had this one student come in, he's at Duke, and he's like, oh, when I graduate, I'm going to work with pro athletes. I'm like, okay, buddy. Like, I got where I am because of connections and contacts. And it's not you go out and you put your name up on a wall and everybody's going to come to you. Like,
Right.
and I think it's that integrity. It's the one thing I've admired about you and watching you is that in our conversations and like the patients that you have sent me, you love what you do and you're passionate about it. If you
Yeah.
could, if you won $1 million, a couple, well, not a million wouldn't do enough, but a bunch of million, and you could treat for free, you would. Like you love it. You
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
people. You're good at what you do
Yeah.
as a clinician, but
Yeah. No,
you know,
I definitely agree with that. And honestly, as I grow as a company, that's the number one thing that I look for with anybody
right,
that really anybody that wants to work for us, like in any level of the position, is I almost have to. I hate to say this, but I have to use their social media as like a barometer for how passionate they are about their job.
okay,
And the reason why I say that is just because listen, there's some people who just don't like to use social media. I
yeah,
get that. I understand
right,
that. But I will say that if I am putting myself out there in a way that I want people to know that I'm a good clinician,
right,
right? And I want people to respect the fact that I love my job. Um, and I don't want people to think that I don't love my job. Like
right,
that's, so that would be something where, you got to posture as such, right? So it's almost like being a dietitian and being super overweight and unhealthy. And
right.
it's like,
Now,
you're like, dude,
would
you're
you
not practicing
find
what you
that
preach.
that's like one of my kids? I taught him. He was a student, and when he graduated, he said, "Yeah, I went for a performance interview here, and I hated it." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because all he talked about was selling." I said, "Dude, if it's a cash practice, you're a salesman. Like when people come
Um,
in, you're selling. You got to be a good clinician, but you got to know how to sell." How
yeah,
hard was how hard was hiring clinicians because they're
yeah,
now
it's
representing you and your brand?
Yeah, and it's an extension of yourself, right?
Yeah,
So, the biggest thing, well, there's two things that you brought up.
yeah,
The sales component of it, right?
yeah,
So it could be phrased as sales, but the
yeah.
word sales just has a negative connotation behind it
Correct.
already,
Yeah.
especially amongst PTs
Yeah.
because we have so much compassion for
Right.
other people. So like when you have this, like that's why you went to PT school because
Right.
you're compassionate. But and sales is like with the negative connotation is the opposite of that. So I always tell people it's not a sale. You just have to be a good communicator and a good educator because the patient, you're telling this person, hey, my time is worth $300 an hour, let's say, right?
Right.
Okay, well, why is it $300 to see you and a $20 copay to go down the street? And if you can't articulate that, then that's your own you're not selling anything. You're just educating them as to why your experience is going to be way different from the experience that they're going to have down the street. So, and there's hopefully you're a good enough clinician that you could articulate that
Right.
because if you're a new grad and you're just out of school and you haven't really treated that many patients yet and you haven't demonstrated that you're a good therapist, then guess what?
It's
You're
sales.
not worth that 300 bucks an hour. I'm sorry, you're
Right.
not. But I happen to know for a fact that I'm going to get you well, I mean, depending on the injury, obviously, but like
Right.
I have a general idea of how quickly I could get you, functioning again,
Right.
and then how I'm going to integrate that into performance,
Yeah.
so it
And
justifies the price
it's
point.
an aspect of sales. I know sales is a negative word. It's a really good book. I read a ton of books because I'm in the car in the airport a lot. And there's one called Everybody Sells. We all do it. Like you do it to your
Hmm.
wife when you want her to do
Yeah.
things. But it's more my job because that you brought up a really good point that I struggle with in my clinic is that I charge a lot for needling, and
Yeah.
there's no barometer. Well, Steve down the road tried needles. I'm like, well, and he's $80. Why are you $150? Right? And I'm not arguing price. I'm like, listen, this is what I can do. And one of the
Yeah.
habits that I've gotten into is probably not a good business model is I don't charge them on the first visit. They will pay the
Hmm.
next day. I said, hey, let me treat you. Go home and call me tomorrow. And if you don't want to pay for this visit and go your own way, go your own way. That's how confident I am. And it's
Wow.
never failed. People wake up the next
Wow.
morning and go, how much do I owe you? Right?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah,
dude,
that's
I'm going to
awesome.
get you. I've been doing this for so long. I know I can get you better at
Yeah.
least 10% the next day in one
Yeah.
visit, if not
No, that's
25%.
yeah. Yeah, that's huge.
Mm,
I love that model for you.
mm.
I will say in terms of the scalability piece
Yeah.
of it, right? That makes it a
No,
little bit tougher on that part.
agreed.
The like the sales component, and this is what I have to educate my staff on
Right.
when they are telling that. You know, like why they would go to us versus
Right.
going
Okay.
in network somewhere. I'm always positioning it as, what's your time worth,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
What if you're going to an in-network clinic and that doctor's script wrote 3 times a week for 4 weeks? And
Yeah.
now on visit one, they're scripting out. They're saying, "Hey, why don't you book out all 12 visits in advance?" That's insurance fraud, in my
Yeah.
opinion,
Right.
because I look at that and I go, "What if I could have got you better in 6?"
Right.
Right? Is it worth more money to be seen less times?
Right.
Right? And then on top of that, you're selling a result. And I ask my clinicians, I go, do you really think that you cannot help this person? Do you really think that? Because the
Right.
difference is, from a used car salesman aspect, is they know that they're selling a piece of crap,
Right.
right? And they have to now position it as if it's not a piece of crap, like it's the best thing in the world. And what I'm telling you is that you are the best thing in the world, and you know you're the best thing in the world. Now you just got to let the patient know that. In
Right.
not such an arrogant way, obviously,
Right.
but you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
just like, do you really not believe in yourself? Right? Because the difference of they will always go, oh, I don't want to sound like a used car salesman. Well,
Right.
a used car salesman doesn't believe in what they're selling. That's what
Right.
makes them a used car salesman.
Right.
So, do you not believe in yourself? Right? So there's a certain level of the confidence that you have to
Yeah.
have in yourself. And I always had, and in terms of the scalability piece of it, I had a mentor that I still talk to this day, but it was funny. It was my first internship back in 2008, and when I was in college. And the guy said to me, he was building a business that was totally unrelated to physical
Yeah.
therapy. It was a
Okay.
pharmaceutical market research. But the guy said to me, um, he goes, I am building my business and hiring in a way that in 5 years from now, I wouldn't be able to get hired at my own business.
Right. Oh, nice.
I
Okay.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that because every interview I do, I'm like, I don't want to get somebody who is just like a meh, like,
Right.
I'll train them to do certain things that I do, blah, 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 whatever. Like, I legitimately want the guy that's better than me
Yeah.
because,
Well,
or I
I
think that could be
quote,
better than me.
so so go back to the point you made. My scalability is my teaching business. I don't ever want to scale my
Mm.
clinic. It's always going to be me.
Uh,
It's what I love to do. It's
yeah,
one-on-one.
yeah,
I can't ever mimic
yeah,
that. I can never
yeah,
teach another clinician to do what I do, but in my teaching business, and what I
yeah,
told my staff, I have four amazing instructors. I said, I took a quote from Steve Jobs. I hire people smarter than me, not so I can tell them what to do, but so they can tell me what to do. I want people better than me. I want to be the
yeah,
dumbest person in my teaching business, right? I
yeah,
want people to be like, dude, I'm going to do way more than you. Sweet, right?
yeah.
Because when you
That's what you
win, I
want.
win. And I mean, I'm telling you, dude, I've got some amazing people that are so credentialed. I've got four guys that are just crushing it,
I love
and
that. Yeah,
that's my goal. I can teach them how to teach. I can't teach them
yeah,
what I do in the clinic. That would
right,
take
right.
years, but I can teach
Yeah,
them how to teach.
yeah. I will say it's definitely, when you're talking about the clinical aspect of it and the actual treatment of the
Right.
patient, when you're doing it so long, it just makes it so intuitive
Yes.
how you
I
treat a
love that
patient,
word.
right?
Yep.
Um, it's almost like I know what's wrong with them before they even start talking. Like I'm the worst in an airport. My wife tells
Yeah.
me in an airport, she's like, "You're a nightmare," because I'm
Yeah.
like, look at this guy's gait. This guy's limping over here. Like this guy, look at this guy's wear pattern on his shoes.
Yeah.
So there's this intuitive aspect of like
Yeah.
I know where to go up the chain and down the
Yeah.
chain and everything else. And with that, I mean, just comes years of experience,
Yeah.
which is why I hate to say it, but like, kind of going back to what my first job was like,
Yeah.
um, I'm very anti, so I'm going to piss a lot of people off right now.
That's okay.
I'm anti residency
Okay.
programs right
Oh,
now.
okay.
And not to say that they can't improve, but
Right.
just the model in which they teach right now,
Yeah.
it's a failure to launch is really what it is. It's a failure. Every single resident that has come out post residency and gotten those initials, they're like, they think they deserve more money right off the rip than a normal new grad, and I
Right.
totally understand it because that's what they're taught in school.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, well, I have a kid that graduated last year and he's been treating independently already for a year,
Right.
selling himself and his services and training under me and everything else. While in that entire year span, you were working under somebody else constantly looking over your shoulder saying, am I doing this right?
Right.
Or am I doing that right? Am I, and constantly getting this feedback and all that stuff and not putting your feet to the fire,
Right.
So
Now,
so
do
I've
you
seen a lot
do?
of those guys come out poorly.
It's funny you said that. I've got a really good friend. I'm actually going to go see him this weekend in Mobile for Mardi Gras with my daughters. But he's an incredible clinician. Been doing it for 40 years.
Mhm.
He's got amazing hands. Can fix those people that nobody else can fix. And I said, let's do a course. It's actually on our website, but we haven't talked it because he's like, it's all intuitive. I was like, I know, but we
Mhm.
got to get it out of here and into a course. He's like, I look at him, I feel, like you talked about.
Mhm.
I've noticed that when I'm needling. Sometimes I start needling and my science brain kicks off. I'm like, man, I feel like I should needle here. And I'm like,
Mhm.
why? Because I've needled for so long. I know that's what would work. It's like you said, it's intuitive. So
Yeah. Yeah.
what is the process of interviewing when that's kind of
Yeah.
your mindset? How does that
Yeah.
go?
First of all, the first component of the interview is just checking this person's personality. It
Okay,
has
right,
nothing to do with their knowledge base. It has
right,
nothing to do with, what letters are behind their name, nothing like that, right? I just want to see, is this person passionate? And
yep,
can they look me in the eye? Can they hold their head up and their shoulders back, right? Like there's to be able to do that in an interview is powerful, right?
right,
And I want to know that you're passionate about your work, like you're passionate and committed to treating patients and seeing them perform at their highest capabilities possible. And if you're a performance coach, then the treatment doesn't end at, hey, I took your shoulder out of pain.
right,
The continuum is endless. It's,
right,
do you really think that you can't train this person to, press overhead heavier or throw a ball harder or whatever it might be, as your subspecialty as a performance
right.
coach. But yeah, I really want to see what that level of interest
Okay,
is.
okay,
And if they're talking to me right off the rips, talking about, oh, I'm looking for healthy work-life balance and 9 to 5, and I need, do you do 4 10s, and like I need to get paid 112K a year? It's like they are coming for all the wrong reasons.
yeah,
Or at least you're coming at me for all the wrong
right,
reasons. Like there are places where you could do that, and it's called
yep,
core rehab and select rehab, and go
yep,
right over there, and they'll take care of you. And you'll sign off on 70 notes a day, and you'll never touch a patient. So
right,
good luck to you. But with that said, the earning potential is still endless and
right,
way beyond what you can make here
right,
or over at Select, or Core or anything, or the big box places. But what I'm
right,
getting at is that I could train you in a lot of these other things, that are going to be like more diagnostic or
right.
skill based or whatever. But I can't train you to enjoy your job. I can't
Okay,
train you to be a good communicator. I can't train you to be passionate. So like I need those base level that foundational work. And then I could build on that and see, then the next tier is, okay, what's your actual experience and your knowledge base, right?
right,
And then the third tier and last tier, believe it or not, is like the kinesthetic awareness. Because we always do that. If the first parts of the interview go well, and I see that this person has a good head on their shoulders, they're
right,
passionate. Now they're checking the box on all the knowledge and skills. Then now I got to see the application, and I want to see that applied, and I want to feel their kinesthetic awareness. And honestly, a new grad, it's a real problem if the guy's been 10 years out of school and he has bad,
right,
bad kinesthetic awareness. Then this is the no, automatically.
right.
I will tell you, I have not seen that yet.
Okay,
There's anybody who's more than 5 years out of school, the kinesthetic awareness is usually there. The problem though is that they're usually kind of stuck in their ways and they don't like to learn our language. So it's almost like,
okay,
I use two different analogies. It's like if you were playing football in the NFL for the previous 8 years for the same
right,
team, and then now you get traded to a different team. The quarterback never learns the playbook in the first year because they know that they're probably
right,
going to be second string anyway. They're just there for mentorship, and they barely learn the playbook because they're stuck in their old ways, right?
right,
And then the other analogy that I use is like, Imagine it like it's a restaurant, right? And in this restaurant, we all went to culinary school, but I built this restaurant based on my lasagna recipe, and everybody loves my lasagna. It's my signature dish. And then now you come in here and you've been cooking for X amount of years, and you went to culinary school, and you're like, oh, well, I do it this way. And I'm like, I don't really care how you do it. I'm sorry,
Right.
but I
Yeah.
like you. I want you to operate within a boundary, and then anything
Right.
that you want to add on outside of that,
Right.
go right ahead. But you have to operate within this box first. That
Right.
comes first and foremost,
Right.
and then you could add things on, right?
Is there a once you have a hire, is there a training?
Mhm.
Because obviously they've got to learn your
Yeah.
systems.
Oh
There's a
yeah, you
training
have to.
with
Yeah,
you.
it's a 6 week onboarding process
Okay. Wow.
that could either be accelerated,
Right.
based on your level of experience, but really the foundation of it is just learning our systems, meaning
Right.
like our EMR, how we do
Right.
documentation, like whatever that might be,
Right.
and then the rest of it is all skills based. So it's like all the way that I name my exercises, like
Right.
if I'm talking about like an anti-rotation single leg RDL, like I need to know that you
Right.
know what that means, right?
Right.
And if I'm talking variable resistance training with bands versus chains at a 30-degree incline, like I need to know that you know what I'm talking about, and conjugate method and everything else
Right.
that for that matter. So as long as we're all speaking the same language, then that could transfer the patient experience from one clinician to the next,
Right.
which is extremely important because we have a very like team approach to treatment. And a lot of people that come in because we're self-pay, they think that we do one-on-one, and I wouldn't say that it's not one-on-one, but it's not one-on-one with the same person the whole time. And we do that on purpose so that the patient doesn't skip a beat when one of us wants to go on vacation or one of us
Right.
has to cover at another clinic or somebody's
So while they're in there,
whatever.
they might see a couple of clinicians in one
Yeah, you
session.
might do 20,
Okay.
you might do 20 minutes with me. Maybe I did all your needling, and
Yeah.
then, Carlos took you through your exercises, and
Okay.
then,
I
Sammy
like that.
did the ART on there. And it's like the patient and every, because we do like a morning, we call it like a morning powwow where we
Right.
kind of quarterback the day, what that's going to look like. Okay, this patient's coming in. Okay, they like to get, this done on the shoulder. And then, so and so likes when you take them to their exercise, and everybody's on board and knows the patients when they're coming in. So it helps us like quarterback the whole
I
situation. We
kind
know
of
what we're
like
going to
that.
do
It kind
throughout
of
the
feels
day.
like they've got a team on their side, especially if they're not a pro athlete and they're like, wow, this is I
Yeah.
got all these people concerned about me getting
Yeah.
back to where I want to be.
Yeah.
What
And,
is
and,
your
and
typical kind of length of treatment? Because you are like, when we talked, you mentioned it earlier. Like when someone goes to PT and I've had surgery, they're like, all right, twice a week, 3 weeks, and you're out. But they're not ready for throwing. They're not ready for.
right.
So you're more performance based. What is your typical length of treatment for a patient?
So are you talking intra session or are you talking about like over
No,
the
no,
lifespan of the patient?
over the lifespan. So is it,
Okay. Yeah. So our average, it kind of varies. I hate to go like it's not really a bell curve. Like you're
right,
getting people that come in because especially because we're a very transient city. So
right.
like there's a lot of people that are just here for a week and need
Okay,
like four
okay.
treatments right off the rip.
Right,
And then I've
right.
had other patients that have been with me, they do, 20 packs every time, so it's
Okay, just
like,
keep re-upping. Yeah,
so yeah, yeah. And so I would say probably I'm going to go with like, I don't have exact numbers, but I'm going to
yeah.
say probably 40% of my patient load it has an average case visit of like over 15 visits.
Okay,
And then I'll say the remainder is probably somewhere around like 8 to 9.
okay.
Because I get that 40% wants to work through the continuum of
Right,
performance training, and they have the means to do so, meaning that they'll pay for it. Versus like the other 60%, they'll pay more so to get out of like the pain, the injury process. But they also know that they could get probably a trainer at this point for a cheaper rate,
right.
something like that, and or they have a coach that they work with at their school or their team or whatever, that they'll go and they'll do that segment with those guys. So, which is fine. I work with them either way.
Would you say there was when you look at the marketing stuff, they always talk about having an avatar. Like, what is your,
Mhm.
what is your avatar? What do you have a patient that's your typical? I mean, is it young, old? I mean, is it
No,
pretty broad spectrum?
no, no. It's super broad spectrum.
Okay.
In terms of like what we see as a clinic is super
Yeah.
broad spectrum.
Oh, nice. Okay.
which is good. I would say like our average patient range is probably 25 to 45,
Okay.
somewhere in there. We don't really
Nice.
see anything much older than that, but you know, we still have a smattering here and there, whatever.
I would make the
And then
cut,
younger
man.
kids.
I wouldn't be able to go to your clinic.
No, it's not like I
I'm
said.
too
I mean,
old.
we have them both ways.
Yeah.
We have it both ways. But yeah, I mean, that's the typical, like, you know, people that really want to be in an active atmosphere,
Right.
or have an active lifestyle, and they don't want to be rehabbing next to a grandmother that just like got a hip replacement and stuff. They
Right.
would rather, you know, they want to be around athletes and that kind of thing. So like I wouldn't call it an avatar as much, but I would call it like what's my model patient is probably
Right.
that. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
who would you say, you've mentioned a couple people
Mhm.
professionally, who has had the biggest impact on your career? And maybe a mentor, other
And
than yourself, because clearly you're self-motivated.
no, dude. I got to be honest. Kelly Starrett was
Really?
the guy
Okay.
that, yeah. I mean, he motivated me to even go to PT school. To be
Oh,
honest,
wow.
so that was seeing what he was doing, and that was like right when YouTube was starting to pop off,
Yeah.
and like, you know, he's walking around with like an iPhone 3. It's probably like the first one that had a camera on it, like filming
Yeah.
himself in like
Yeah.
windy San Diego, like showing us how to use lacrosse balls and all that stuff, and I'm just
Okay.
like,
Now, have you had an
man, this
opportunity to
guy.
meet him or no?
So I met him twice. The
Okay.
first time was at a course. I took a course that he taught it in Miami.
Okay.
It was like his like CrossFit mobility course or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. I was
Right.
in PT school at the time actually, and then and I met with him at a Whole Foods like right next to it at the time. Like we
Yeah.
got to like
Now, did you
chop it up a
tell
little
him
bit.
that he's the reason you went to PT school? Or did
Yeah,
he?
but it's like, dude, he probably gets that so much
That's true.
that it's like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. It's like a
especially
beautiful
him
girl
because
saying, "Wow, you're pretty." I'm like, yeah, everybody tells me that.
yeah. Well, I mean, think about it as like and on top of that, it's imagine like when you were a Illustrated model
Right.
before Instagram or something. It was
Right.
like a big deal. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then now Instagram comes out and it's like, who cares? Like they're a dime a dozen kind of thing.
Right.
So it's I think that there's a lot of performance-based physical therapists out there, but I
Okay.
mean,
Right.
he's just the most genuine
Oh, nice.
person that I've
Okay.
ever seen, and he'll give you the shirt off his back.
Wow.
And he would, you know, just to see you get better. Like
Yeah.
he genuinely cares. I think the hardest part though is that when you put yourself out there, like, and this is part of our profession that this is the part of our profession that I feel like is the toughest for me to deal with, which is like the absorption of, I don't know, I'll just call it like a negative energy. Like
Okay.
you have to be able, like nobody's coming to you on day one being like, dude, I am in great shape and
Yeah.
I'm the best in my sport and let's go and I can't wait to work with you. It's like you're spending the first couple sessions like talking these people off a cliff,
Yeah.
you know, and
Right.
you got to be able to absorb that and kind of deflect it and turn it around and flip it on its head. And you know, that takes a special person to be able to do that over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's where I think like a lot of people that see a lot of patients, especially because they don't get to see them through the continuum of the care, like maybe they just, you know, got them through their first 8 sessions,
Right.
sessions post ACL, and then they never see them again. And it's like because you're not seeing the other like positive side of it, you just keep seeing
Right.
negative after negative after negative, and it's like, dude, no wonder why you're burned out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I
It's
mean,
funny.
some of the most rewarding parts of my career, like I get to like rehab a kid's ACL, and then I get to go to his game and watch him
Yeah.
play. Like I
Right.
love that, you know.
It's funny you
So
mentioned
watching,
doing
go ahead.
inpatient, and I did a
Mhm,
neuro, and I saw this
mhm.
kid with spinal cord, literally like, trying to like nothing. And I'm like, God, if I did this every
Yeah,
day, but then I went to an outpatient neuro, and for 10 weeks, I watched him go from that to walking out of the clinic. Like I'm like, dude,
yeah,
that's incredible. That's what a
yeah,
lot. Yeah, you're right. A lot of PTs don't see that. They're like, all right, you're good.
yeah,
You're out the door. Let me, like you said, absorb all the negative. Send you on your way.
yeah.
and you don't
Yeah,
see
and then
the
it's
other
on to the
side.
next one, on to the
Yeah,
next negative, and it's like
right,
I think that's why there's a lot of PT burnout. And
right,
it's very rare that you see PTs anymore that have been in the field for longer than 15 years, practicing
right,
for 15 years. Usually they're going into education, they're going into, maybe they're a clinic manager, they don't see patients anymore, they're going into administration type work.
right,
But to see an actual practicing clinician for 15 years, I mean,
right.
there's not a lot of them out there. So,
So,
unless, like I said, you're
yeah,
seeing the other end of it, and you
yeah.
find a good release valve that makes you enjoy your job more.
So, what would you say? Well, what's your staff now? What's your number of staff that you have?
Let's see. So we have six employees and two
Okay.
independent contractors. Yeah,
Okay, excellent. So
yeah,
I think the biggest thing that I want to know, I'm not even care if people want to know, me personally as a professional, what do you think was
yeah.
the either number one or top three qualities that you have that made you where you are today, right? As a
I
person that allowed, because my definition, I would say you were successful. You're doing what you
oh,
want to
thanks,
do and
man.
you're loving it. So, but
Yeah.
what qualities
Uh,
made that?
Man, I wish you briefed me on this before.
Sorry.
That's a tough one.
No.
No, I would say just like, man, your ability to network
Yep.
and put yourself out there, right? So I think that's a sticking point for a lot of people is that they're the, they're afraid of like how they might be perceived.
Right.
So like, and I have that fear too. So don't get me wrong, but like I'm also just like, at the end of the day, what's the worst that could happen? The
Right.
worst that could happen is I go back to eating ramen noodles again for a couple weeks. Like, I'll find a way to.
Well, I think you're
So,
downplaying it. One of the biggest ones that I've seen, just in my
mm,
experience with you, and you mentioned earlier about your clinic, you were like, dude, if I
mm,
have to sleep on the floor, like you have that personality that, yes, you love what you do, but like, dude, I'm gonna succeed no matter what it takes, and
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think
Well, there,
people wanting to go into cash business or the performance side, I don't know if they have. They're like, hey, I'm tired of the box clinic. I want to go open a clinic. I'm like, no, it takes some shit. It takes hard freaking work and like you talked about, hours and hours and
yeah.
you don't get
It's,
into it because you want to work less, you know?
yeah, and I also think like my threshold for like what is a stressful situation is a
Okay.
lot higher. I'll say that. So
Right.
so I tend to think that like there's a lot of things that come across throughout the day that I'll see somebody really flustered where I'm just
Uh,
like this is not a
yeah.
flustering situation.
Have you read
So
The Obstacle is the Way
no,
by
no,
Ryan
what is that?
Holiday? You would like that. It sounds like you. It's on the book of Marcus Aurelius. It's about stoicism and
Oh, cool.
just
Yeah,
being here, man. It's
yeah,
right.
yeah. I like I
Challenge
wouldn't
is
say
not bad. It challenges the
I'm
obstacle.
definitely
That's
I'm
for sure.
definitely animated in the clinics. I don't know how
Oh,
stoic I am,
okay.
but I would say just like, your ability to I don't ever want to be in a room where people are like when I leave they're like, "Was Kyle here?" Like, does
Oh
anybody
yeah.
remember if Kyle was here?
Yeah.
So I don't know why, but like I just, and not that I need to like be on top of people, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I'm just like if I'm going somewhere, I'm making an
Yeah.
impact there. And if
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Oh,
make
I
an
like
impact,
that.
I'm not going.
Yeah.
You know,
I like
I
that.
don't want to go. Like there are certain rooms, like I won't go to a gala because I know I'm not going to make an impact at the gala, but I'll donate the $1,000, but I'm not going to like take the time out to like go get it. Like I don't want to do
Right.
that.
Right.
So it's just like I want to be involved in situations
Right.
and scenarios where I could be useful.
Yeah.
And like
impactful.
I just find that, yeah, and I find that rewarding. Like I'm not the kind of like I can't sit and play video games or watch
Right.
TV or anything like I
Right.
don't even know the last time I turned on my TV, but
Yeah.
so that would be like another quality that I would say like the threshold for
Right.
stress and like there's a study that Alex Hermosi, I don't know if you're familiar with that
Oh
guy,
yeah.
but
Heck yeah.
he
I'm
he did
rereading
Jim
his book right now.
Oh, cool, cool. All right.
Yeah.
So I just watched a podcast where he was talking about this. It's older, so you probably heard about
Yeah.
it, but it's like a study where they starve a rat, and then they waft cheese in from the front of the cage, and they
Yeah.
see how hard the rat is chasing to get towards the cheese, and they have like a little tension barometer on the tail, tied to the tail.
Yeah.
So that is a direct measurement of how motivated this person is to
Right.
eat, or how
Right.
the mouse is to eat. So they waft the cheese, and the mouse goes after the cheese. But
Right.
now they put a cat behind the person, or
Oh,
behind the mouse, sorry.
yeah,
And they put a cat behind the mouse, and the cat is like clawing at the crate,
yeah,
and this mouse is tugging even harder now, right?
okay,
So it's the idea of not being motivated by something that you need, but
right,
also being motivated by the fear of what could be,
right. Something you
right?
don't want. Right.
Something that you don't want to have happen.
Yeah, so I
So
told a guy
yeah.
the other day, like, it's when I spent years as a personal trainer, and people are like, oh, you did this and you did this. I said, no, I didn't. You did, right? You got to the point where you were so sick of what you wanted. I was just the vehicle, right? Because if I
Yeah.
took credit for that, I'd have to take credit for all the people I didn't get better, all the people that quit.
Right,
Like,
right, right. Yeah.
you make the choice. Like you made
Yeah.
the choice to be successful. And I'm telling you from somebody who's been in a room with you, you are definitely impactful. You
Oh,
definitely, I
thanks, man.
think you've got great energy, great personality. So when we spoke a while back, when I was in Atlanta,
Mhm.
you were doing something
Mhm.
with, you were traveling and working with either, what is it, firefighters or what was that, like elite? Are you still doing that
Well,
business?
yeah, yeah. So, I'm working with a couple like what would be considered the tier one units
Okay.
of the FBI.
Okay. I knew it was
So
something. I
it was
apologize.
so it was SWAT teams, and
Oh,
it
jeez.
was I mean hostage rescue teams and their
Okay.
counterterrorism teams,
Oh,
and these
wow.
are the same guys that are going in and kicking in doors and all that kind of stuff, and I love working with these guys just
Yeah.
because of the fact. I mean, not only is it like, it's just like it's such a small unit that it's like,
Yeah.
man, not a lot of people get to see this. But it was more so like seeing how I learned so much about teams and effective teams by
Right.
working with these guys because their commitment to their job, if they aren't good at their job, they pay the ultimate price, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they become obsessed. Like I thought I was obsessed with my work. These guys are every choice that you make from like the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep, every choice that
Right.
you make revolves around the team. So there's like, can I drink and operate a vehicle? You know, am I going to take something to fall asleep where I could potentially be woken up at 3 in the morning and be groggy? Like there's so many things. Like well, I learned that the first guy who breaches the door is not actually the first guy in the house of the SWAT team. You breach the door and you back up, you let number two in, and then number four or five, whichever guy is that, he helps split the target for whoever's inside to
Right.
try to reduce the risk of whenever they stun this guy inside, you want to make sure that your partner doesn't get killed, or at least that you could
Oh,
reduce
wow.
the risk of them getting killed. So
Right.
it's like, are you willing to sacrifice yourself for the betterment of the guy in the room next to you? And how committed to how I should say how committed to your job are you that it helps the whole team and it helps the company grow as a whole? And here's the thing is like if I'm up, late doing my notes and or putting together an Instagram post or putting together a blog post and I'm up until 8 or 9, I'm not saying everybody has to do what I'm doing, but what I'm saying is like the standard of your job, are you living up to that standard? Or are
Right.
you doing just enough that you're not getting fired?
Right.
Right? So it's like, yeah, and you should take a hard look at yourself in the mirror every morning and say like, are you that guy? Are you that man? You know?
Right. And I think a lot of that comes from, the top down. I think people see that. I feel like in a small company, now that I'm a owner with employees with my teaching, if I'm like, hey, I
Hmm.
need you guys to do this and I'm not, it doesn't
Yeah.
last long. But if you're doing it and you're like, hey, I'm doing it, can you do it
Yeah.
too? That's an easier
Yeah.
sell. Like we're all doing
Yeah.
it, let's do it together.
Yeah. And it also just comes down to like, my staff sees me wipe tables down. I take
Yeah.
the garbage. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, nice.
there's
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not above any position in within the walls of my company.
Right.
But with that
Absolutely.
said, I also know that I have a responsibility that they rely on, which is setting the vision and mission and direction of this ship. And if
Right.
there's other people that need to pull the sails in order for me to see what's on the horizon, then those people got to pull those sails just as much as
Right.
I got to see what's out there. Right?
Right.
So like my job is no more important than theirs. It's just
Right.
different responsibilities.
Now, on that note, that's a great segue because that's where I was going to go. What is on the horizon for
Yeah,
True
well, like I was
Lab?
saying, the next step is to get our own building. So,
Okay. All right. And you're
I
staying in
want
that
to.
area, I assume?
Yeah, as of right now, I'm gonna stay in this area, so that's where I'm looking. So even if
All
it
right.
comes down to getting a plot of land and
Yeah.
building a
All
building,
right.
just because it's tough to what's actually
Yeah.
out there right now. But
No, yeah.
I'm leaving the options open. I'm not in any kind of rush. I
Right.
mean, I'd want to get it done if it could happen tomorrow, I would do it. But
Right.
I'm in that phase right now of
Okay.
where is this next location going to be,
Okay.
and the next one's going to be a big one. It's not going to be inside of another
Now, are
gym. It's
you
going to be our
gonna
own thing.
close the other two, or is it gonna be a third one when you open up
It
another?
it depends. I mean, it depends on how far they are from the other two, right?
Okay.
So if I wind up opening like, I really like to be pretty close to where my first location is, Coral Gables and
Okay.
Coconut Grove.
Okay.
So I really want to be there for the first, big step of this.
Okay.
And then, all the guys that are helping me on the consulting side, uh, that is it's funny because it's a little different. It's like they just had CSM, and when I go to CSM, I get
Yeah.
bombarded with young people that are like,
Right.
"Oh, how do you start a business? How do you do that? How do you do that?" And then when I go to private practice section meetings, I'm the one doing that to guys that have like 20 locations. Like, yo, how did you
Oh
get 20
wow.
locations? Like, how do so
Yeah.
like now the shoes on the other foot. And what I'm learning from these guys that have like 20, 30 locations is that going from the hardest part is going from two locations to the third. Because as an
Really?
owner, as
Okay.
one guy, uh, you could only split yourself, so thin between two
Yeah.
locations, right?
Yeah.
So I'm doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday at one, and then Tuesdays, Thursdays at the other, right?
Okay.
But then once you get to the third location, that's not going to operate efficiently unless you have your
Right.
standard operating procedures in place and your training process in place. And then once you prove that you could do a third one, but
Okay.
you could open 15 in the same year.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
so all you have to do is show that your business is not dependent on you being within the walls.
Yeah.
So, and then once you get it there, sky's the limit. Now it's just about how much capital you
Now,
can
is
inject
that
to it.
anything down the road of you not being in clinic, or do you just enjoy that too much? Do you ever see
I,
yourself
I,
just
well, no, I'll never not be in clinic, but I'll say that I really, really enjoy like being able to pick, when you want to treat, right?
right?
That's the biggest thing. Like people tell me that they want to treat athletes, and I'm like, what do you really want?
Right.
They want the credibility of treating an athlete,
Right.
right? And a high level person. But what they really, really want is financial freedom. They want the ability to use their reputation to grow a practice to eventually be able to not have to do this when you're 70 years old to make ends meet. So it's like you got to set it up in a way that there's an exit strategy.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know if that was I forgot the question there, but I don't know if I
No,
answered
you
that.
said, do you see yourself not treating? Was my
Oh,
question.
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
That's okay.
I want to be able to pick, who I want to treat, when I want to treat,
Right.
that kind of thing, and like not feel like, oh, I have to be here, otherwise,
Yeah.
like we're not going to be
Yeah.
make payroll. Like I don't,
Yeah.
So I want to be always be in a position like that. And then I got to be honest, like some of the stuff that I've really enjoyed recently has been helping other practice owners,
Yeah.
transition from their insurance models to their
Right.
self-pay models, and then helping them
Okay.
scale those self-pay models. So,
Right.
that's been a lot of fun helping guys get through that startup phase, and
Okay. And
and
is
I
that
tell
a
them straight up,
business
I'm
thing,
like,
or are you doing it
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
the
It's another business that I started.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
started a consulting company on the side.
Okay.
So, I'm only taking on limited clients,
Yeah.
but because I only have so much bandwidth right now.
Right.
Because I mean, the primary thing is Crew Lab. But with that being said, I am enjoying it, which is it's more of like a passion project right now,
Okay.
and I could see myself doing a little bit more of that, like once I
All
get the
right.
model.
And
Like right
when you
now, I could only help you with a startup. I can't help you
yeah.
get to like 15 locations, but I can help you with the startup component.
Well,
So
the guy I
that's where I'm
spoke
at.
with last week on the podcast, that was a big question. Is I've been in business for years, and there's a lot of I don't want to say a lot, but there are a few vultures out there that'll say, "Hey, if you pay me $1,000 a month, I'll teach you how to run a cash practice." And then the person makes 200,000 a year, but the person who paid him doesn't make anything. I said, "Would you
Oh
think
man.
it's worth getting a consultant?" He said, "Yeah, if you find someone that you connect with and you're
Mhm.
new and you want to start it, I would highly recommend a consultant." But sometimes weeding
Yeah.
through all the people out there that'll help you run a cash practice is challenging.
Yeah, I would say the number one thing that I see that I used even when I was
Yeah,
starting up too. So it's making sure that they actually have a real resume, right?
yeah,
And it's not fake.
yeah,
Vet them based on what they said that they've done, right? So like
right,
make some phone calls, do your due diligence.
Yeah.
Did they really have three clinics? Did they really, do this and that and the other? Like make the phone calls and do your due diligence to make sure that the resume is real, just like you would an employee, right? Like you
Yeah.
would do the same thing. So vet them that way. And then the second piece is make sure that they have a plan. So like you don't want to go I just had this conversation with an athlete about trainers on Instagram. I'm like, when you go to an Instagram trainer that's like, they're just working you out because there's no plan and they're just making you do a bunch of bizarre, crazy exercises trying to get you to throw up real quick. And then it's like, okay, well, what's tomorrow? Oh, we're going to do the same thing tomorrow. And it's like, well, that's not smart, right? With a pro athlete,
Right.
because now you're going to injure them. So it's a matter of like, do you have a plan as a consultant? Right.
Right.
So what does that look like? What does phase one look like? What does phase two look like? What does phase three? And then these are the steps and the milestones. And I put all that out in place. And then I'm like, we don't go to phase two until we finish phase one. Right. And I'm there to help guide you from phase one to
I like
two and
that.
then two to three.
Yeah.
But if nobody's mapping that out for you, like a linear
Right.
progression, like you would do as a personal trainer, if nobody's mapping that out, they're fake. It's not real.
Yeah. Awesome. And now
Yeah.
we mentioned earlier when we were not recording that you have a little one.
Yeah. You got a
Yeah.
3-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah.
3-year-old boy or girl?
Yeah. Boy, I already got
Okay.
him doing push-ups on his knees. So he's on his knees doing push-ups.
Hey, but I
Solid. No,
guarantee you he
no
can do a
arching in
better
the back,
squat than
nothing.
you. I bet he can do a deeper
Man.
squat than you,
It's
man.
it's I mean, listen, Kelly Starrett, case in
Yep.
point, he was like, look at these young kids
Yeah.
when they drop automatically
Yeah.
into that primal squat position, and it's like boom, automatic, and he lifts like that. Like he
Yeah.
goes and he picks up his toy truck like that.
I mean, they'll
And
sit there. I remember when my girls were little, they'll sit there in that squat. And my
yeah.
body's going, shit, right? They'll just
Right,
sit in the
right, right.
squat reading a book. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't get,
Yeah.
below 90. And you're sitting
Yeah.
there like in a full squat and not even thinking about
hmm
it. Well,
Right,
listen, I
right. But
appreciate you, man. I know you got, oh, go
of
ahead. Oh, go
course.
ahead.
No, no,
Yeah.
I was going to say about the young one is like, I think anybody with young kids, especially in
Yeah.
our profession, that has young kids like that, like it's important that we don't, obviously push anything on them,
Right.
but what you want to do is like set them up for success when that time comes. So like,
Yeah.
teaching body control, teaching hand-eye coordination, teaching foot coordination, right, with like soccer skills or whatever it might
Yeah.
be, like all those little things. I'm not asking them to play any specific sport at all, but all I could do is just make sure that we're constantly, playing games that involve those
Yeah.
different aspects. And then I'm like,
Right.
dude, go ahead and apply that to whatever you want now.
That's awesome, man. Well, we'll
Yeah.
keep chatting about parenting. It doesn't get any easier, I can tell you that.
No, it doesn't. I'm
When they get
sure.
older. Kyle,
Yeah.
man, I
Yeah.
appreciate you, brother. Nothing but love for you, man. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see you,
Likewise.
Dale.
All
Hey, I'll be
respect.
down in Miami in a couple months, so I'll hit you up. I'm
Yeah, I
doing
know
my
you are.
lecture down there. All right,
Perfect. I
buddy.
love
You
that.
be good, man. I'll talk to you.
All right.